action was taken on the vacation.
Are there executive sessions?
Someone needs to entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Yeah,
I move we go back in regular session.
all in favor, aye. No action taken on the vacation for Kirby Miller.
Who, Miller?
Kirby,
Yeah.
thanks for keeping us straight.
Thanks, Councilman. You're slipping, Tammy, because you should have caught that.
I told him.
Oh. Yeah, you should have caught that.
Now, do we get to the next item?
Yeah.
Do we get to the
Yeah.
additional item?
Yes, we're going to put up for vote a moratorium on floodplain permit process. A moratorium stop on all current applications for floodplain permits and all new applications. A moratorium as to non-surface owners, i.e. mineral right owners, until either a final depositive order of West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals or the enactment of a new floodplain ordinance. Do I hear a motion on the floor?
I'll make the motion, but I want discussion.
Okay. Let's discuss it.
Well, we had people here that can talk to us. Dan can come up here and talk to us a little bit about, maybe help us understand it a little bit better.
Okay?
I'm a little bit not understanding everything that's going to happen here. Okay?
It's been my understanding, I talked to Mr. Tennant this morning, that the judge issued his written ruling on Friday's verdict yesterday, last evening. All the attorneys received it. It is my understanding from him that Mr. Sweeney changed it a little bit from the way they understood it when he was sitting at the bench at the end of the session Friday. His written statement they thought was just a little bit different. And as I understood it, and from Mr. Tennant, and he told me that he was wanting to do this, and suggest this to you, that as the judge had done his written statement, that he felt that it was mainly the subsurface owners and the mineral rights owners which had been slighted or whatever, which was unconstitutional in this ordinance. So that was his recommendation, that we put a freeze on drilling and subsurface activities until we get this matter resolved. We are currently working on a new floodplain ordinance. We've been working on one for some time. Rick McElroy of Harrison County and myself have been working on the technical end of it for several months. But we didn't know what all we really needed to fix until we knew what was broken. So now the judge has told us what he believes is broken. I've been in contact with Rick McElroy yesterday and today. Harrison County is very anxious to work with us as we draft this new ordinance, so that we're both on the same page. He and I will be working on the technical ends of it. He has great expertise in code. He is very familiar with the old ordinances and how this has evolved to where it is today. We are bringing together lawyers to work on the legal end of it. I talked to Mr. Tennant. He said he thought it was a great idea. He was more than willing to work with Harrison County, with Harrison County's lawyers, with anybody that wanted to help us to get this ordinance drafted and get it fixed. Our idea being that we needed both expertise in the technical end of it and expertise in the legal end of it. So our objective is to, in the next month, get an ordinance drafted, which is going to address these weaknesses and get it in place, not just in Harrison County, but perhaps in Ohio County and in Doddridge County and any other counties that may want to come aboard with us here in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, this has fallen right at Christmas time, so our agenda of the month may be a little ambitious. I don't know that we'll really get things started well until after the first of the year. But this is upon his recommendation that we do this at this time until we get this matter resolved.
Now, when you say, we're not going to issue no more permits to drill.
Yes, for
Is that what
some,
you said?
that's what his is saying, yes. This is not
Until-
this is not freezing the individual up and down here that wants to build a house.
Okay.
A resident that wants to build a house in the floodplain in the county can still apply, can still go through the same process that they have been doing. It is my understanding that as of the judge's written ruling, this was Mr. Tennant's take on it, and this was what he thought we should do.
So now, my question is, how many people do you think will come apply for a drilling permit when we stop this? He'll come into effect today, right?
Yeah, well, we haven't had that many building permits anyway. I mean, this, EQT thing was the first permit that had been submitted to us in the floodplain, to drill in the floodplain in Dodge County, and it's my understanding in the state of West Virginia.
Okay.
Now, as we have another issue going in the county, is that we have had a producer that has started a well in the floodplain without being permitted. I sent that company a letter, gave them a time span to comply with my concerns and the fact that they hadn't even submitted, for a floodplain permit. And that date will be up Thursday at midnight. And if they have not complied, I'm ready with the stop work order Friday morning to stop work operation.
Okay. You say, let's say by the end of January, we're going to have our new ordinance in
I
place?
believe so. I think this has kind of rattled everybody's tree from Harrison County up and down. All 55 counties have this same ordinance
That we have.
that we have. We are not setting as a unique individual in this. All 55 counties have this same ordinance that was brought to them. So, when they said that ours was unconstitutional, he just basically said all 55 counties in the state of West Virginia, your floodplain ordinance is unconstitutional. But then it is my understanding now that he believes it is unconstitutional as it pertains to the subsurface rights owners. And therefore, that is why he's wanting to kind of put a freeze on this until we get things straightened out.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
I sat through that court case, and I'd really be interested in seeing the written ruling, and I know Tammy taped it.
It's very
And during that ruling, when he did that, the impression that I got was more of the fact that it was declared unconstitutional because people that had surface had no recourse for comment and were not made aware of what was going on. And that was, that was the whole gist of it, and that was the beauty in how he ruled. And there might have been, and it was more of the fact that it was the surface that was affected. It was going to be affecting people whose lives might potentially be endangered by changes in the flood zone and property damage to surface owners, not to minerals.
Right. That's what I heard.
That was, and there's several people that are here that were there, so I'd really, really like to, if anybody has a copy of the written order, I'd really like to see it. Is that available?
I was supposed to have a copy sent to me today, but it was not on my email as of the time.
Yeah, because it
Could I-
was definitely complete contradiction
And-
of that's how he wrote it,
Yeah, and I don't know that I hit on all of it. Like I said, I was not allowed to attend the trial.
Right.
Well, did you get the email that I sent you with it? Or were you able to listen to it?
Yes. So I got to listen to Tammy's video of the trial and everything there, and got to take my take on it from that also. And I don't, without the attorney being here to speak for himself, I'm telling you what I understood from my conversation with Mr.
Comes down to the written ruling, doesn't it?
Pardon?
It comes down to the written ruling.
That's
doesn't it?
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
What
Maybe-
about the verbal? What, does not what he's saying in court have any?
Okay. What my concern is if, you know, he can go back over and reread that and change it, okay? What he had wrote. My concern is that from what I got upstairs was the reason he said it was unconstitutional is because the adjoining landowners weren't being notified.
Right, do not.
Okay, people who would be affected. Okay, wouldn't you have that with a house floating down the creek also, Dan?
Yes, sure.
I mean, if somebody goes in and builds a house above you on the creek and washes out and comes down, slams up against your house and destroys your house, what recourse do you have?
But there are things in the ordinance that address that type of situation. I mean,
Well, you look at all that we have going on in the floodplain in this county. And you've got people who are coming in and doing stuff that they're not taking care of our floodplain, and they're not taking care of the people who are there endangering.
Well, Tammy, I checked, like, you know, I've been over there checking on one particular site that's going on, drilling that's occurring along the McElroy Creek. And the lady in there went back, I knew when the permits were issued, she went back to 2005, actually all the way back to 2000. And there was nothing for this one company. And this company has actually applied for another Marcellus well permit on the same pad.
But my whole point here is that I don't feel like this floodplain permit only pertains to oil and gas.
No, it doesn't. No, that's what they were, it's not.
The notice does need to be given. That was the beauty of his ruling upstairs, was that the neighbors need to be notified
Right, the surface.
that they're going to do,
yes, and that will all be in a new ordinance, I assure you.
okay.
I assure you it will be.
You have something to say, Jim?
It was my understanding that the constitutionality of this was, the fact was that we, surface owners, was denied due process because we were never notified.
Right.
And the only way that we found out about it was through discovery by hook and crook.
So,
And that was my interpretation of what was said in there, is that the Huffs and the Fosters was denied due process and the community of Grove, because we never knew anything about this until they was ready to start excavating and moving dirt.
but you was denied due process by who? By the gas company?
By the ordinance,
The ordinance.
It's not in the ordinance.
because they,
It's
Oh,
not in the ordinance.
okay.
they gave you 60 days, I believe it was, or 30 days, what was it, Dan? To acknowledge,
Okay.
or to make any comments on it. If you do not know anything about it, how can you make a comment?
That's true.
And I think that he felt by doing, what you're voting on here and freezing, drilling, that we are in essence kind of freezing that situation until we can get this ordinance fixed. Or until the ordinance comes down from the state. But by freezing the drilling, that way we won't have this situation arising until we get the ordinance fixed.
My question is, you talked about the other company drilling in the floodplain, so whether they contact you or not, you're going to stop work, right? Okay, because of this.
Well, they
No,
have,
they don't have anything.
they have until midnight Thursday night
To do what?
to give me everything they need and comply. It's to give me to apply for a permit and to give me the studies and everything that I need and to fix the things that are wrong with the well site right now. And I can't see that happening.
But doesn't this trump that if there's a moratorium in the floodplain?
Would it?
That's even better.
Please, just a minute, okay? Does this trump that? Does this moratorium trump?
No.
So they can go ahead?
No, they can't go ahead. Well, they cannot go ahead regardless. I'm going to stop them. But they still cannot go ahead because we are not issuing or doing anything with
Okay,
permits
so that was your
until we
question.
get this
That was
resolved.
her
That's
question.
what you're asking.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Okay.
But my main concern as we speak is to get things shut down now, so there will be no harm to anyone. There's a mobile home that's only a couple 100, 300 feet from this downstream, and that's my biggest concern.
Right, okay, thank you.
Is this moratorium just on wells in the floodplain or on all wells in the city?
It would just be in the floodplain.
So who's going to go around and see just where they're drilling since nobody's applying for a permit? I mean, you're counting on them to come to you, but
Exactly.
obviously, they're not gonna do that. They're out to make money.
There is a way of circumventing that, and you go online and you hook into the DEP site, and they will notify you of all the wells being drilled in the county that are being permitted.
I get those notifications and I've taken it upon myself to go in and put these things on Google Maps to see where the location is, like in the area that I live on. But the situation that Dan was talking about, this one well, it was through citizens living in the area that the people that could do something were notified, okay? And I'm a firm believer, because the companies aren't doing it, that people living in the area need to know that they have recourse. They can call people and they can get stuff going. But the other thing too, I think would be a really good idea for the county because there's really only a handful of drillers that are drilling in the county that for the Marcellus stuff, that letters be sent to their home offices and be told that part of their application process involves, if it's in a floodplain area, that it involves applying for a floodplain permit through the county. Because all the state does is send them a letter and says you might need additional permits, but it doesn't tell them what additional permits that they need. So
If they can avoid them, they will.
yeah, exactly, and that's what's been happening, and it might partially be ignorance or not having the knowledge of whoever's applying for this stuff, but if a letter, a certified letter is sent to these companies, and from what I could see, it looks like there's less than 10 that are doing it in Doddridge County. In our immediate area, a certified letter is sent to their people so that there's not going to be an excuse for not applying for a floodplain permit. And the only other thing, as a county, if you're doing, the other suggestion that I would have, I mean, you can get notification when permit applications come into the county, and whenever the decision is made for a permanent floodplain coordinator, one of the jobs that individual should do is either check on a weekly basis to see what companies, where these permits are coming, and spot them on a map, and see if it's in a floodplain. To, start the process, and once they're aware that there's proactive action being taken on the county level, they're going to start doing that as a part of their permit application.
The whole process is flawed.
Right, but this
The
would-
reason I say this is DEP, oil and gas, they should not issue a drilling permit until all other permits have been completed and filed with that application. And then they issue the permit to drill. As it is now, they issue the permits and they couldn't, and all oil and gas, DEP oil and gas is concerned about is the $5,000 they get for each well. And they couldn't care less about what goes on in the counties and so forth. And I say that DEP is the culprit in all of this. They should not issue a drilling permit until every permit has been obtained and is on file with them before they issue the drilling permit.
And how do we change that?
It has to be a legislative change. It has to go, and guess what? Based on the last Supreme Court decision, when coal was king, they ruled that coal had the surface owner's rights, and now that gas is king, they throw that out and ruled that. So you see who's in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And
May I ask a
What a-
question? Does the floodplain coordinator have enough time to check on all of the permits that have been issued to see if they are or are not in floodplain as was suggested.
You can do that fairly easy. I do it at night.
It could and should probably be a full-time position.
Absolutely.
I
DFPC
guarantee you that if I add up my time, I haven't even come to make minimum wage on what I've done. And it's a shame that they ran this down our throats without any funding to enforce it. You know.
Well, isn't it the DEP's, one of their first and foremost jobs, the state DEP is to protect our waterways. That's what the whole DEP was set up for. Isn't that what they were first and foremost supposed to be doing?
Department of Environmental Protection, period.
Yeah,
And then they subcommitted it to DEP Oil and Gas. It handles strictly nothing but oil and gas. And they are outside of any code,
It's-
rules, or regulations.
well, they're the ones with the education, the technology, the know-how, and the money to make this work, not our little county.
Here they're already in.
One of the bigger problems, you know, like she said, with contacting the companies and everything is, they're outsourcing all this stuff. They're not doing any of it. They are hiring engineering outfits to do it all for them, every bit of it. And not always the same outfit with the same company either. And these guys are bouncing from county to county, and this thing is being implemented different in every county. You know, they haven't got the same game book. Yeah, we've all got the same ordinance, but not everybody's enforcing it or doing the same things with it. And, you know, I'm dealing with people from Denver, Colorado to, you know, Pennsylvania, you name it. Very seldom is it anybody that's even in the state of West Virginia that's doing this work for these companies. So, you know, yeah, we can get it to them, and hopefully they get it on to these guys and everything. But, you know, it's a really big market, obviously, right now, with just the engineering and everything on this, and they're outsourcing it all. They're not doing any of it themselves.
But Dan, the one thing from my experience with the oil and gas industry, on whoever that driller is, there is an engineer or a project person that oversees what's going on. So they really, even though they're using contractors or whatever, ultimately, the drilling company is going to be responsible for whatever action occurs. Because that's the same thing with EQT. So it's not like you don't have to contact all the contractors, it's up to that main.
Yeah, main company, we hope they
Right.
trickle it down to them, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Can I ask one other question? Have you checked with the OES director? They're supposed to file all those reports, the emergency contacts with him.
What's that now?
They file reports with him so they know where the well location is, who the contacts are and all that stuff with OES down here.
Yeah.
So you could get your names from him.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I never thought about that, because they do have to have those plans for emergency, and that's a good source.
And so the moratorium right now only affects, because it's new and current, EQT and this company that you just mentioned, that's all that's in the floodplain?
No, there are other.
Approximately, how many would you say it will affect that you'll have to stop work on?
I don't believe, as far as the stop work thing right here, as we speak, I'm not aware of any others as we speak.
Well, a moratorium on current floodplain permits means that they would have to stop.
Yeah, only on the mineral and subsurface stuff, and that is only for the ones that are applying. How's that worded there?
New and current.
And moratorium stop all current applications for floodplain permits.
Right.
Right.
So it stops everything current. It doesn't go back and try to yank
Not
anything out from
retroactive.
underneath anybody's feet or anything
Oh,
like
okay.
that. We're just freezing it in place right
Stop
now.
all current applications. Permit applications.
Current and future, until we get this resolved.
Okay, my next question is, what's going to happen if we don't pass this moratorium?
Well, I never asked anyone that one. And, you know, apparently that, our attorney felt that it is worthwhile. I don't know if this gentleman sitting right here has any thoughts from the lawyer's end as to why he may have had that logic. I honestly can't tell you for sure what would happen with that. I think his biggest concern is that perhaps we would look like we're not trying to comply with this judge's decision as he laid it out. And it was Mr. Pent and I's thoughts that we should still be as prudent as we could and, trying to go ahead with things here and do what's been said of us as we understand it.
Thank you very much.
Did you have something, Jim?
Well, everybody talks about this floodplain issue as this, it just came up. This floodplain, we've had an ordinance that's signed in this room right here since 1991. That is in some aspects, a far better ordinance than we have today. This stuff did not just happen overnight. It's been ignored by all. And in my conservation district, which covers Doddridge County, I have so far, from the Corps of Engineers, received 3 permits under the 404D and 319 of the Clean Water Act. Anytime that they're building a road that goes across a ditch that might carry water, they're required to get a permit under the 404D program, under the Clean Water Act, and send and have a plan drawn up from this. So far, we have received 3 in our conservation district on this.
So you have an enforcement problem also, it seems.
The conservation agents, the conservation districts are not enforcement people. We're only advisory. And under the Corps of Engineers notifies us anytime that they are supposedly that anyone has made a permit of a land disturbance in our area, we get a permit. Antero has sent some through the Corps of Engineers and so forth. But there are multi-agencies involved in this kind of stuff. But the oil and gas people do not bother to comply. I asked a man one time about a station that went in on Brush Fork if they hadn't received approval from the Corps of Engineers. He said, we've got all kinds of approvals. I've yet to receive an approval from the Corps of Engineers on the road they built on Brush Fork to that station.
Okay, so we have a vote for the moratorium on floodplain permit process.
Aye.
Okay. Are you going to vote on the floodplain process?
I'll let you keep this up.
He has.
Folks vote aye, and all in favor signify aye. Motion approved.
Could we have a copy again, the 2 of us?
Of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any budget revisions?
See, haven't got any papers yet.